So my question is this. Around 2013, something started happening in my life where it was almost like the law of attraction didn't matter. In other words, I was able to manifest things despite myself. In other words, it was like I couldn't even get in my own way. In other words, if I were a petulant child digging in and totally focused on the negative aspects of everything, I was still getting what I was wanting. And not just getting it, but it was like the universe was like supersizing it for me. And I don't understand that.
Well, you are never creating outside of law of attraction. And therefore, law of attraction always matters. But you do have a mix of vibrations. So if you've got a strong belief, if your desire is strong enough, it doesn't really even matter what your belief is. Because think about it, you have all of these beliefs that could be hindering, but when you tap in a moment here and a moment here and a moment here to the source within you, then whatever vibration you've got going on, it's like your radio dial is not always set so that you can hear a particular station, but you can always set it there. And so what you are helping us to say in an important way is you've got a mix of vibration going on. And when things are working out well for you, it means you are more in that receptive mode than you are giving yourself credit for. No one's ever always in the receptive mode. When you came into this physical body, you intended to have step one moments, which really isn't the receptive mode in the sense that you're not receiving from source in those moments. You really intended to be sometimes in the step one and more times in the step three receptive mode. But for most humans, you've kind of got that flipped. You're more often in the step one mode and occasionally in the receptive mode. But that's all it is. It's a good thing, now that you know what you know, to begin thinking about what your mix of vibrations is. What am I bringing to any table where I'm interacting with another? Let's say that Esther has just had this luggage experience and it's really been on her mind, and she's been focusing upon it in such a way that it's what's active in her mind is not just the recent experience but a lot of them, and just a general sense of no control of your possessions or your life. In other words, she's really gotten carried away with it. So let's say she is meeting you for lunch and that's where she's at, and let's say that you're mostly living happily ever after, but you've got some things that have been bothering you that are active in your vibration too. When the two of you get together, you're going to misbehave more than usual because of the intensity of Esther's influence in the moment. You get what we're talking about? Now, you could be so tuned in that nothing that's going on in Esther's vibration would affect yours. But law of attraction is going to find the things about you and about her that's going to make for this co-creating environment. Don't you find that interesting? And it's not because somebody else is controlling your experience. It's that what is your proclivity for a vibration? What is the likelihood of an activation of a vibration? And that's why the more you meditate and the happier you are and the more you clean up your vibration, then the less of that you have. So the answer to your question is you've always got a mix of vibrations going on. And sometimes you're more tuned in than you're consciously aware of.
Interesting. So how is it that things that are far beyond what I can even imagine in terms of how beautiful and amazing they are like making their way into my life, even though that's not where I feel like I'm vibrating?
Well, perhaps it's because the essence of them is often active within you, but the details of them is not yet known. And so you think that because you're not in detail identifying them or speaking about them, that you're not a vibrational match to them. But you are. It becomes more and more fun. In other words, you could meditate, and so you stop any resistance and feel pretty good and not think much about anything and live happily ever after. You could also meditate and lower your resistance and then deliberately think about good feeling things and really increase your momentum fast. There's something so delicious about hands-on deliberate creating. For a while we called this gathering the science of deliberate creation, but you all got kind of carried away with it. You worried too much about what your thoughts were. And so then we wanted to emphasize more the art of allowing, the art of receiving. So we began describing to you this vibrational reality. And we said to you, get into the vortex. We wrote a couple of books about get into the vortex, get into the vortex. And you began shouting, I want to, but I can't find the door. How do I get into the vortex? And how can I get my money out of the vortex and into the bank? How can I turn this vibration into a reality? And then we began saying to you, it's right there ready for you to receive it. You've just got to tune to it. And when you're in the receiving mode, you're also in the replenishing mode, then life just gets better and better and better, doesn't it?
So this thing started happening. Well, like, you know that game that Canadians are good at playing, like curling? You know, like with the rock and the people sweeping. It was like I would be manifesting while I was meditating, like this one thing, but then like the rock would just like keep on going past it, like in a good way.
Here's an analogy that will help you to understand what's going on. You could have 10 subjects in your life, all relatively active. Let's call them subjects of desire. And let's say that 9 of them aren't working out for you the way you want them to do. One of them is. You could focus upon that one that is working, and then the other 9 would start working too. Because in the absence of attention of what isn't working, and in the presence of attention of what is working, you open your vortex, you open your valve, you get into the receptive mode, and you allow your desire to begin to manifest, and you get to witness it happening. So you did most of your thinking when you were in the step 1 contrast, know what I don't want, know what I do want phase. So you did the examination, you did the deciphering, you did the sifting and sorting, and you did the asking. Step 1 is done. It's done, and source is on it, which means it's ready for you to be ready for it. The question is, are you ready for it? But it's ready for you to be ready for it. The question is, are you ready for it? But it's ready for you. The question is, are you ready for it? So that's that vortex that we've been talking about. Now, you don't really know what you're doing that much, but you've decided to meditate, and you quiet your mind more and more and more, which means you stop practicing the vibration of resistance more and more. Which means you begin to practice the vibration of allowing more and more, because there's either allowing what's in your vortex to be received by you, or there's resisting what's in your vortex to be received by you. Just depends on how you're feeling and what you're thinking about. So as you are meditating more, which means you're practicing resistance less, then you're putting yourself in a more receptive mode where you can receive more of those thoughts, and then law of attraction and the momentum causes them to just begin moving faster and faster. It really is exactly that way. What you're thinking about has a vibrational aspect to it. Your emotions let you know whether you're helping yourself receive what you've been asking for, or whether you're hindering. It really is that simple.
So the part of me that wants to control things, I think wants to understand what happened during this phase of my life where I stopped being able to get in my own way despite myself. Like, I mean, I have a couple of hypotheses. One was I did start meditating a little bit. I sat in a chair and there's nothing fancy. I just set a timer and that's it.
You think?
Well, so that could have been it, or like, but I was still doing all the other bad things that I, do.
But here's the thing. Those other things you're doing aren't bad things. It is a normal thing to always be in a state of comparing and maybe resisting and maybe allowing. There's this mix that's going on within you. And the allowing part of you is much more dominant than you realize. Let's break it down in this way. Can you feel that you are an extension of source energy?
Oh, hell yeah.
And can you feel that that non-physical inner being source energy part of you is aware of everything you want?
Oh, totally.
And do you believe that in that knowing, we're going to stand over here where we've been describing that your inner being is, do you get it that that source energy is flowing to you steadily, always, ever, constant thoughts about you realizing even more fully all of the things that you've been asking for? It's a steady stream of knowing and information and path about how you might find more satisfaction about your desires. Can you feel that?
Oh yeah, it's like this.
So can you feel that on some subjects you've got more resistance, and so you're not getting it, you're a little more clueless? And on other subjects you have a little less resistance, and so things are breaking through more easily. But the point that we're wanting you to acknowledge, and you've done it already, is that the well-being, and the specific well-being, is always flowing to you, and you are receiving it to one degree or another. So is it logical that as you find a thing to feel good about, extra good about, and it's capturing a good deal of your attention so that you're more open than usual, that more things would begin to be allowed by you to manifest in various ways? You see the way it really is. On some things, let's say there's 10 subjects, there are always more than that. On maybe one of those subjects, you've been ready to be ready to be ready to be ready to be ready. And so let's call it subject number 1 is about to burst onto the scene in full manifestation. Well, subject number 2, you might be sort of stuck out here a little bit where it's more something that you're feeling, but you're not getting very many impulses about it yet because you have a lot of resistance about it. But occasionally you have a better feeling thought about it, but mostly you hang around in a more resistant state. So this myriad or this multitude of subjects that are in the process of becoming, it's like you're pregnant with 10 babies all at the same time, and one of them is going to be born today and one of them is going to wait 9 months, and so every month or two you'll just go give birth again to something else. That's not the best analogy we've ever offered you, but you sort of get what we mean, because there's this gestation period. And so the better you feel, the more of what you want is realized by you. Your inner being is always presenting it to you. Your inner being is always flowing it to you. It's the realization of it that must happen, and it must happen by you before you see it. We've enjoyed this interaction. More than words explain, but not more than emotion does. So satisfying to us to witness the shifting, the releasing of resistance, the allowance by you to your allowance of the rising of your own vibration. We like to peer into your vortex. We like to spend time there. We like to be there. We like to know that you. We like to know that fully expanded so far, because we never get it done, do we? Expanded, evolved you. We like to know that you. We like to be that with you. And then we take such satisfaction in being with you wherever you are in terms of whatever's going on, knowing the satisfaction you are feeling as you are closing that vibrational gap yourself. When you made the decision to come into this physical body, you knew it would be just like this. You knew that there would be variety that would stimulate you to the desire for more. And you knew that your ability to receive that more would not be instant. And you liked that. You knew that you would be molding it into place. You knew that life would cause you to carve out a very large variety of interests on a large variety of subjects. And you knew that the mixing together of those new intentions that you would be discovering along your way, you knew that they would formulate what would eternally be yours and our future experience.